This episode of Mind Gap Podcast is brought to you by Uncle Todd's Venomous Reptiles Sleepaway Camp. Now, you remember when Sleepaway Camp was some cool shit? You know what else is cool? Reptiles. Even cooler? Venomous reptiles. You can't argue that. A snake that'll make your arm explode with one bite? Come on. A lizard that spits acid? Come on. At Uncle Todd's Venomous Reptiles Sleepaway Camp, you'll learn about the wonderful and exciting world of venomous reptiles. You'll come face to face with the world's most dangerous cold-blooded creatures. Do I have my degree in herpetology, you might ask? Not technically, but what does a degree get you that good old-fashioned inquisitiveness can? While you ponder that, head on over to UncleToddDeathLizards.net to reserve your spot this summer. Enter the code MINDGAP at checkout, and you won't be required to sign a waiver before setting foot in our property. Uncle Todd's Venomous Reptiles Sleepaway Camp. The only thing greater than... Huh?
They broke the tank.
What?
They broke the fucking tank.
What do you mean they broke the tank?
What do you think I mean?
Well, how many got out? All of them? Oh, hell.
Hey, dorks. Just a quick message reminding you to head over to twitch.tv/mindgappodcast and give us a follow. We live stream when we record our new podcast episodes, and we're live streaming video game sessions on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. We're playing super rad stuff like Among Us, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, Jackbox games, and Tabletop Simulator. Come hang out and play along with us. That's twitch.tv/mindgappodcast. Welcome to the podcast, dear friend. On this week's episode, Justin and I are joined by an excellent human known as Matty Goldberg. He is a retired stand-up comedian who has recently started his own podcast called Last Words with Matty Goldberg. We talked about how he came up with the idea for his podcast, he shared some comedy stories, and he gave some insight into his plans for becoming a master of poker. He was funny, thoughtful, and incredibly kind. So get comfortable, grab a pen, and get ready to take some notes for once in your life because Matty Goldberg has some great insight to share in episode 248 of Mind Gap Podcast.
Mind Gap Podcast.
We have a very special guest with us tonight, but before we get started, a couple of things. First of all, if you're new here, welcome. We do our Twitch streams every Tuesday night and Saturday night. Tuesday nights is our podcast recording. Saturday nights is our video game stream, so be sure to tune to that. We'll talk about that more later, but I want to get to our guest here, coming all the way from Los Angeles. Very awesome human being who just recently started his own podcast called Last Words. Welcome. Come on board for us, Mr. Matty Goldberg. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, guys. Woo! Thank you. Great to be here. Just met you guys 2 minutes ago, so a crash course of getting to know you guys. But now I learned Saturday you have a video game Twitch.
That's right. Look at that.
You guys said you were nerds, and I didn't believe it. But now
we don't lie about being nerds, that's for sure.
Yeah,
we're very much nerds. So
At least we've made honest men of ourselves.
that's how you gotta be, man. That's the way. You gotta embrace it.
Well, thanks so much for hopping on here and chat with us.
Of course.
I just, we have a mutual friend who mentioned to me that you have a new podcast starting. Called Last Words. Tell us a little bit about that. How it came to be and what you're doing with it.
All right. Well, I'm a stand-up comic, or I think like Corona just took Pier 21 out today.
It did.
I heard about that.
Yeah, they're done.
My wife is so upset by that.
Every wife is. Take a number. Well, I think Corona might have taken my comedy career away because I don't know when this is over. I'll have I don't know if it's in my heart to do it anymore. Stand-up comedy. I'm decent at it, but you want to stay creative. Like you guys are lucky because you can do this through you probably the same format. And I started calling people I went to high school with, people I went to college with. And it was almost like we were saying goodbye to each other because this is like the beginning of the whole thing. And we were having some really heavy talks about like Remember that time you fucked me over? Can I curse, right? I can curse.
Of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Good question.
Remember in 8th grade, I had a crush on Becky and you asked her out, and you were, like we're working all that shit out. So I thought it would be a fun idea if like I hit people up, friends, foes, and we have one kind of last conversation as if we'll never see each other again. And that kind of like, I was like, that would be kind of a fun idea because I'm having these incredible conversations with people I haven't talked to in like 10, 15 years. And I'm learning a lot. The last episode, I had a dude that was a very good friend of mine in elementary school. And then in high school, he got really popular and I became a nerd like you guys. And like, he wouldn't take me to the cool parties and he would, I think one time he like teased me with other kids, like the cool kids, it was kind of like that movie Can't Buy Me Love. Mm-hmm. Like you shit on my house. Greatest movie scene of all time. So I'm having these moments of people and I've done three of them so far. So it's called Last Words. So it's kind of like our last conversation. So it's got to be a cathartic experience for you too to get some of the, especially if some of this has been like buried for years Absolutely. And years, and just being like, well, look, if this is the last chance we got, let's take it. Swing it. And the thing I learned with the kid in high school that I was like, he never knew that I like resented him. He was unaware of that. So I was like, you should have, you should have taken me to these parties. Like you got cool and you just like broke away from me and that hurt me. And what I learned at the end, and this is me self-reflecting, was wait a minute. He was trying to figure shit out too, like he was going through his own shit. And I realize now like that resentment's gone, not because he had to apologize, but because I was maybe being a little unfair to him. So there's a little self-growing. I mean, I'm a goofy guy, but I like to have some sort of little depth to me. So I thought that was interesting. And that's what, like, it's almost like in high school when you have a hypothesis in science class and if this happens, you think this will happen, but you don't know what's going to happen. So these conversations are getting good. I'm trying to find ex-girlfriends to come on.
Nice.
They're a little reluctant. They're they're the ones that are like super reluctant, like you can change your name, but I really want to have like where we went wrong, what happened, what they thought of me, like stuff like that.
Dude, you're doing what I think so many people wish they could do in their lives. Like there's so many people I'm sure wish could just bring an ex on, or the people that you had a beef with in high school, or a presumed beef. Even because I'm thinking back to like my high school career.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are people who like, I was like, you made my life a living hell.
Yeah.
And then as an adult now, I'm thinking back on how I treated some kids in high school. And I'm like, fuck, I was an asshole to some kids.
That's the
and
hardest one to
the
swallow.
Underdog.
Yeah.
And so like, this would be on so many levels, it would be such a great thing to do,
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Lost you for a second.
That was
I might have to switch to my phone, guys, because I have a crappy computer. But we'll keep talking. But I'm going to download Skype while we're talking.
Okay, no worries.
Just in case. But yeah, it's also like, there was a moment where the guy did say that he's like, look, you were no angel. I go, yeah, you're right. I did. I got to be honest. There were a few times I was a total... Like if I look at my behavior, I was not. There's things I'm not proud of,
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure you have stories of high school that you would wish you could go back and redo.
Well, I think that what's so cool about this, Matty, is that you're able to go back and look at it and be like, oh, right, he was going through something similar like I was, and I just wasn't in the mindset to understand it, because a lot of times, of course, we're the hero in our own story, right? Like we're never like, I'm the villain, like no one, no one's like,
one thing about us is people don't like taking the L. They don't like taking the L and just looking inside themselves and like, well, maybe I was a dick, or maybe I'm not, I'm a little tough on somebody when I'm at fault. And yeah, you're right.
That's awesome. Got a couple people on Twitch here. Water Speech says the first 3 episodes have been hilarious, so there you go.
And congrats.
And then Duffy's91 says, same. Tonight, 10 years ago, I was graduating. Tons of memories. Would be nice to go back and try to mend bridges.
Well, you got a 10-year reunion, buddy, coming up. Like it will happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think.
That takes a whole nother too to like do that in person at a place like that, because you're doing these remotely, right? So you don't have to be in the same room. If you were in the same room with the people, do you think you could do the same thing? That's New York coming out right there. Like, oh fuck yeah!
I got my revenge at high school. I mean, high school reunion. I got my revenge. I'm not a good-looking dude. I'm 5'5". But I was doing very well in comedy in New York City, and girls obviously are attracted. I got into it for girls mainly, and I had this very beautiful girlfriend at the time, and like you're damn right, I was gonna like have her as my little trophy, walk around, Matty the little nerd, coming back, and they're like, "Why don't you do a little comedy?" And I'm like, "Sure," but I just started roasting people like really hard, and I think this girl said, I heard a girl say, she said to somebody, she's like, God, I'm so glad I was nice to him in high school.
Dude, how did that feel? How did that feel in that moment?
It was an incredible feeling. But at the time, I got to be honest, that was a few years ago, and I've grown up a lot, and I don't want to do shit out of revenge.
Sure.
Like I don't want to do stuff out of revenge, and that was purely like venom.
Yeah.
Like I felt absolute venom that night. And then after that, I was like, let it go, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's a moment most people dream of, or that's like a cinematic movie moment too, where you're like, oh yeah, this is the time I'm going to dunk on these bastards. I'm going to show them who's boss. But I know as soon as you said it was out of vengeance, it was
pure Michael Jordan.
Making up stories, except these were real. You're like, I'm gonna dunk on this guy.
Yeah, and they could have been a little like, of course, my feeling of being hurt could have been exaggerated.
Sure.
But
yeah,
it was pure venom.
Wow. Well, that's also, again, it shows growth on your part to be like, yeah, I guess in the moment it was cool, but did not come from a good place, and
lousy place. It really did.
I think also having those memories. I was watching someone give a speech about how when you give something happens and the first time you recount it, it's a little long-winded and it's a little boring. The second time maybe you embellish a little bit and then it becomes a more interesting story. The third time it's even more, and by the fourth or fifth time it's not even the thing that happened to you because you want this to be interesting. So same with these memories in high school. You probably have one way that you're like, oh, this is how it was in high school. But that's, 20 years worth of retelling this to yourself in your head,
Well, here's the thing. Like, there are things I still remember. I mean, I sound kind of somewhat maybe intelligent, I guess, but I wasn't a good student. I remember before taking the SATs, they said, like, no cheating. And this kid goes, yeah, I'm going to cheat on Matt. Being like sarcastic, like I'm the dumbest kid that like why, and I heard like a few people chuckle. So right before I'm about to take this really intense test, I feel like shit. Now that kid that said that to me probably never remembers it, probably forgot about it saying it like 2 minutes later, but we're like 20 years later, I'm still like that like it still stings.
Yeah.
And it wasn't embellished, but to somebody, it's like, yeah, whatever. I don't even remember saying that. Like, I have no problem with you. I thought you were smart. I just made a little joke there. But to me, or to people that are like super crazy competitive, it's like, fucking blood guts.
No, those are the things that I worry that I've done or said, because I think about those same things. I'm like, how many of those comments have I made? How many of those things that I've done for the sake of a joke, or, hey man, I was just giving you a hard time. But I was like, how many people did I not only ruin their day, but I left a horrible impression with, and I'm sure they're like, fuck that guy,
Yeah. And I'm certainly not innocent. I'm sure there's people I became friends with later that I was like, look, I was a dick to you in elementary school, Right. And usually they're cool about it. They're like, dude, I don't remember, so it's okay. But I'm sure they do.
Yeah. I mean, Doug, I know what you're basically worried about is the plot line for most comic books is that how many villains have I created for myself down the road that are going to come back and exact vengeance on me and my family?
Yeah, I mean, there's so
sure
many
your head's
things.
gone there.
So many things I don't remember, and then like someone would be like, "Hey, remember when you did this?" I go, "Oh my god, I did that." They're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "God damn it, I was an asshole. I'm so sorry." Like when people reference stuff from high school, I'm like, "Yeah, let me just go ahead and apologize." They're like, "No, it wasn't bad." I'm like, "I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was," because I was. Everyone like was the butt of the joke, you know, and you know, I look back at that and I'm like, God damn it. It's funny we got.
It's only until we get older that we realize that, kind of to your point, Matty, is that everyone's going through, or maybe Doug said, everyone's probably going through the same exact shit. And in high school, no one realizes that. Everyone's just like, this is my struggle. I'm going through this. It's only me.
Exactly.
And to kind of bring it back around, that's why I find your podcast so fascinating, is because we're in that moment now where we're all going through the same thing. We're all in this situation. It's weird. It's uncomfortable. Some are more. It's comfortable for more people than others. Like me, I'm like, cool. I can be in my house, in my room, no problem.
Sure.
Like my
There's
job.
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. Like I'm not like, you know, you're a comedian. I've heard so many podcasts from comedians where they're just like, oh my God, when can I go back? I've heard guys just saying like, what would you do to get back out there? The guy's like, I'd eat my own shit. I'd you know, whatever, you know, I'd fuck my mom, whatever it takes. Like they were just like, I need to be out there on the road right now, because a lot of them, you know, it sounds like a lot like you. Like they're doing pretty well, right? They've got it in a groove.
When I started,
you know?
I definitely, you know, comedy was it was a compulsion. It was an addiction, and I had to do it every night, as many times as I could. Yeah. And then, you know, after years, 15 years, it's like, all right, it's a good rest. But I understand a young comic must be flipping out, because when you're in the trenches and you're addicted to it and you need the attention, the validation, and I certainly needed it. It's like not being able to be in water, you know, or be a fish out of water, not being able to breathe. It's like taking a giant chunk of your life away. And I know everybody's going through stuff. It's just a really weird time, because it's like some people are really going through stuff, deaths. Then like people are losing their jobs and their businesses, and then like people are losing their freedom. So there's like different levels. And I just want to be like respectful to all those levels for the most part, because I know everybody's going through heavy shit.
Yeah.
No, there's the people that are, I'll just say the people that are working, of course, like that are doing, you know, the nurses and the doctors and the people working at grocery stores. Like they're just like, you know, they're the heroes of this, and hopefully we won't forget about them when this ends.
Oh, absolutely.
Doug and I have talked about that a few times, is that we're this is such a unique point in humanity where we get to kind of reassess what we've been doing and how we've been doing it and how we can be better. And I do worry that a lot of people are just going to completely, you know, things start to go back to normal and people are like, whatever, that was great, but we need to get back to this other thing. And we're going to kind of forget all the shit that we went through and all the lessons we presumably learned.
Well, the best metaphor analogy for this is, and I tell this to everybody, it's The Breakfast Club. There's a scene in The Breakfast Club where they all say at the end of the movie, they have these really incredible talks to these people in high school, get back together, they have nothing in common. They go, well, when Monday comes, are we going to be friends? Like, are we going to say hi to each other in the hallway? Yeah. And some say yes, some say no, but you know they're not.
Right.
And this is the same thing. We will exactly go back to, like, you know, the same way we've always been, and that's how we are. We take things for granted, and we say we're going to appreciate certain people's more, and then, you know, it doesn't happen, unfortunately.
Yeah,
it's been a weird thing. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I was outside of the actual pandemic itself, like everything that it has caused from a suffering level, 100%, like that's withheld from this statement. But there have been elements of it that I have actually, like the element of the quarantine and having to reevaluate like how we consume media and how we do other things. There's elements of it that I feel like I am going to miss when things start to go back to normal. Have you guys had that thought at all?
Absolutely.
Thank God. I thought I was weird for a second.
So here's the thing. like with Zoom, like say if there's like I live on the east side of Los Angeles and Venice and Santa Monica's on the west side. So there's like friends I have out there and they're like, hey, Saturday night, come have a drink. I might say yeah, and then like 2 hours before I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So I don't, and then they get mad. So now I can hit like 3 different groups of friends up in one night, and I don't have to leave my fucking house. And it's beautiful.
Awesome.
So it's like, okay, now I can have a drink with these guys, hang out, and like I can leave and go with these guys, and I'm like, you're in your pajamas or shorts or whatever.
Yeah, man.
And it's, I think a lot of businesses will realize like, hey, we don't have to, fuck traffic up, and people can work from home. They're actually getting more work done. I think it will, I'm not saying this was for any benefit of anything. I'm not one of those idiots that's like, oh, the earth needed to heal and the earth, it's just like we, sometimes when shit happens, it's like, okay, we realize like things are more efficient different ways.
Yeah. Duffy's 91 says no DUIs, so that's got to be a good thing, right?
Well, here's the thing though. I have a buddy who lives in way upstate New York. This is crazy. So his town, they've decided to open up like certain areas of New York. In his town, they haven't, and it's a terrible drinking town. So now, like, you got to go like 30 minutes to go to a bar, and you're gonna bet damn well that every motherfucker in that town that loves going to bars is gonna drive there, and then they're gonna be like, "Well, I've been stuck at home for 2 months. I don't give a fuck."
Right.
I'm a little worried.
Yeah,
Yeah.
As things open up, I mean, I'm sure you've seen headlines like Wisconsin opened up some bars and stuff, and people were just like they couldn't. Yeah. I think in Ohio in some spots, they've had some patio spots open, and people have just been like, they couldn't wait to get out there. They're freaking out, and me, I'm a hermit. I'm fine. Yeah, I'm in my element, so people are like, it's open. I'm like, I'm good. I'm fine where I am. Like, this is the best for me because, like, on Saturday nights, I'm like, we should do video games because you all are home. I know you are. So play games with me. So I know you're not out doing shit. So come play games with me. So, like, for me, selfishly, I'm like, yay, I can have people to play games with.
Yeah, I'm not a video game guy. But I don't like going out, so I think I'm with you. I'm with both you guys on that one.
Yeah.
The other thing that I've laughed at recently is some of these protests that have been going on. The best one that I saw, and it could only happen in Florida, is that a bunch of Floridians were in front of the courthouse protesting. They wanted their gyms back open.
Yeah,
they were protesting. You saw that? And they were outside doing sit-ups and push-ups and crunches and stuff to protest. And I'm like, you guys are completely stepping on your fucking point. And it's that kind of stuff I've loved seeing. Just like draw the insanity of humanity out so we can see where these people live.
I always know, like, it is insane, but I will say this. I have a buddy who's a gym guy, and I'm not into the gym. I've never been to the gym in my life. So he's going to move to Ohio from New York because the gyms are open there.
That's commitment. You know what, though? That's some commitment right there. That's a guy who wants to work out. Kudos to some degree.
So, like, you go with that, you're like, I don't get the gym, but maybe these guys, it means that much. I don't know. I mean, but I don't get it, but I have weird taste, so
I mean, one could argue that this individual sounds like they have weird taste as well.
Well, I guess there's this deep obsession with the gym. I mean, I would just assume that you could, maybe put some weights in your basement and put some tunes on and do it. But I think, I don't know. I don't know much about it. I haven't really studied it or talked to enough people that go to the gym because there might be some sort of weird social thing there.
Yeah.
Like you're like, well, that guy over there's lifting 350. I'm gonna lift 375 and show him up. I don't know.
Yeah, man.
It's kind of like the cult of CrossFit. I mean, I feel like you just look at any CrossFit person, you see like that's that like undying commitment to the cause.
Yeah.
Like in my neighborhood, we have I think it's a CrossFit place. I don't even know, but they like have a garage door.
Yeah, that's a CrossFit.
It's like. Maybe it's like it's not CrossFit if people can't watch your like perfect body. That's the only idea because most businesses have walls and shit And they don't. And it's like, well, you got to look at us. That's why we're doing this. I think. I don't know. I don't really get it.
That's hilarious. Too Good Hip says that move from New York to Ohio is either commitment or psychotic.
Yeah, probably a little bit of both.
And Slotty Barfast says the antisocial shall inherit the earth, which, yeah, doing all right so far, I'd say.
I should tell you how I met your buddy.
Yeah, tell me. How'd you meet my buddy?
Story?
How'd you meet our mutual acquaintance?
Yeah, so his name is Tony. So I never met him. So I've been doing stand-up for a while, and I got a message from a dude named Jay Schultz, and he's like, hey, I got a gig for you. My buddy's having a bachelor party. I hope I didn't fuck things up right now, that you weren't invited or anything.
No, I live. He did invite me to the wedding and stuff like that, so it's totally fine.
Good. I was like, oh shit.
No, it's totally fine. Totally fine.
Okay. So he's like, would you like to perform at the bachelor party? And I'm like, yeah. So he's like, we're gonna have a couple burlesque dancers. By the way, the most overrated shit in the world. It's nonsense.
Why are they nonsense?
I just don't like. I don't know. I don't find it. It just doesn't do it for me. And then when I met the girls, it definitely didn't do it for me.
Oh wait.
They were in and out. They just they did it. They did their little thing. They took the money and they split.
Wait, what did you expect them to do? Hang out and be like, talk to you about?
I hung out. They got me to hang out instead. So I became friends with Tony. So the burlesque dancers went up, and I was terrified because, you guys are dudes. Like, you're married. Are both you guys married or just?
Yeah, we're both married.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're both married, and I don't know what your bachelor parties were like, but I've been the ones where like you're at the grossest strip club in Vegas and you're on the highway at 3 a.m. walking. And then I've been one where you like go like to the to like a cabin and drink wine and shit like that, And I didn't know what to expect. Like, are these guys gonna heckle me? Are they gonna like be dicks? Are they gonna let me do my jokes? Like, I was terrified. I just knew I was gonna get paid. That's all I knew. Like Jay was like, even if you bomb, we'll pay you. So it was him and like 10 of his friends, and they were all really lovely and really great. I did like 15, 20 minutes. They were awesome. And then I just started talking to them, and then through the power of Instagram, we stayed in touch. So I'm in touch with like him and I think his brother Maxwell and a couple other cool guys I met from that crew.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I never knew that story. That's so cool.
That's a really great meat story. I love that.
It's a great meat story, and it's like I always like joke around with them. It's like, did none of the burlesque dancers talk to any of the guys, but I did. I mean, they could have been out faster, and I know like that. It's probably an amazing life because I don't know how much they got paid that night, maybe 300, 400, but they had like 3 more gigs to do that night.
Jesus.
Yeah, so they're out of work too, I guess.
I gotta
get
get
into the wrong business, man.
Oh, hey man, it's never too late to start. Twitch,
true.
we got a Twitch stream right here, my friend. I mean,
Oh my God, why have we never thought of this?
it's no nudity. It's just put pasties on my nipples and
That's it.
I'll dance to Rammstein, and that should be doing it, right? That's what they do.
No, definitely not Rammstein. It's more like
Then I haven't seen burlesque. Then I've seen something different.
Burlesque is you're thinking of like straight up strip club shit, but they do more of like a artistic, like a flappers 1940s 1930s dress, and then they have like this crazy lingerie that's not really that sexy. And it's more like the like vaudeville stuff where they they're wearing a lot of layers and they slowly dance and they take it off. It's not that good.
I have gone to one burlesque show that I wasn't expecting.
Exactly.
At one point, I was the music investigator, and
okay, you're part of it.
I'm part of the problem.
It's just a script.
It's just as sexy as it sounds, by the way.
Yeah,
Music investigation.
I would essentially go to clubs and bars and whatnot. Anyone who hasn't paid a music license, and I would essentially be a patron for 4 hours. I'd scope out the place. I'd write down all the music that was being played, and then I would basically report back to the guys, be like, "Hey, we have proof that you guys are playing licensed music. Pay a license, or we're going to sue you." Yeah. And one of the places that I went to was a club, and I was listening to some live music, and then they cut, and then all of a sudden, these two girls come out, and I was like, and my wife was with me because they encourage you to bring someone with you so you don't look creepy writing shit down in a notebook. And all of a sudden, these girls come out and they just start like dancing, and all of a sudden, clothing starts coming off. And I turn to my wife, and like, I swear to God, I don't know what this is. I didn't know what it was. And then they just sort of
whole thing, right?
Yeah, I was like, what is this shit? And then like somehow they put like whipped cream on each other, which I thought was weird. Yeah. I don't know. It was very weird.
You said music investigator. I'm like, oh, you must have been in the script where like, because it's kind of like that 50s detective shit. Like, girl or something, and because I'm sure they have guys that play like parts, you know.
Oh, sure,
like,
yeah, without a doubt.
Newspapers and everything, and they do the whole thing. But just go to YouPorn or whatever. Just get the job done fast.
I mean, you can argue that with strip clubs too, you know, like
I'm not a strip club guy. They don't really.
I can't stand strip clubs.
Yeah. They're the worst.
Yeah, I've people in the chat are saying, you know, Doug's never been to a strip club. He's a fundy Christian, which I'm not, but it's an ongoing joke on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I went to one and only one, and it was not a great experience. It was in the basement
of Daisy Dukes.
It was not
out in the Quad Cities.
It was not. It was in London, and
oh my.
I was over there, and we were so cheap. We were like going to a strip club, but they had like a 5-pound cover. We're like, we don't want to pay a cover. That's crazy. Just $5 just to get in. So we found some dude who led us through some back streets to like a basement of a building. And they're like, don't worry, there's no cover, but you had to buy a drink, and all the drinks were a minimum of $5. So we got,
and they probably don't have alcohol, right?
Oh, they did, but they watered that shit down, and then like it was gross. It was awful, and I just remember sitting in there. I'm like, why are we in here? There was like.
I would just be terrified for the soccer hooligans. They're just looking to fight somebody.
Oh man, it was not great. I felt dirty and gross. I was like, why are we in here? And it was not good. I was not a fan. So yeah.
There was one I got dragged to, and it was a $20 cover. I was protesting this the entire time. I'm like, guys, there's no reason we need to do this. $20 cover, and then right there, I'm like. You see, already we're in the fucking hole. And it was BYOB, but you had to buy mixers at the place. And the mixers, it was a tiny bottle of like Snapple, and they charged $10 a pop for the thing.
Oh God.
And I'm like, you fuckers. See, I hate it. Was the worst fucking
So
night.
$30 minimum to get in, and then deal with whatever you got.
Yeah.
There's a whole type of gentleman that likes those places. It's but I think we mutually enjoy women that appreciate us. So that's
no, that's a very fair point.
Because some guys just like the fantasy, like they don't have to like talk to them, they don't have to deal with them. It's like it's just really easy. So
have you ever
done stand up at a strip club?
No, but there was a place in New York when I started. I wasn't good enough to get in, and it was a strip club. But there was a law. There was this Mayor Giuliani that I'm sure you know about that everybody hates.
Heard of him.
Yeah.
And there was a thing that it had to be it was like a thing called like 80-20 or 70-30. So you'd have to have a 30% of the business be something else, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it was like stand-up comedy strip club, and the show, like the crowds were awful from what I heard, and everybody bombed, and they didn't really pay anybody well, but it was just a front for the comedy was just there to have something so they could get past the zoning laws or whatever.
Yeah.
But the closest thing was Tony's bachelor party, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, though, having to try to perform, especially in a place like that where the comedy you're forced to be there just so the strippers can exist in that building. Like, I can't imagine a more hostile audience to play for.
Yeah,
well,
right.
I did a casino once where the first night it was great, and then the second night I bombed terribly, and I was like, I called the guy who ran it. I go, I don't know what happened. I did the same shit I did the night before. Yeah. And then he was like, all right, well, I'll get to the bottom of it, because a lot of the people there were very hostile too. And it was in Atlantic City, which is, that's a bad area because it's like Philly is really hostile people. And then he called me, he goes, look, it's not your fault. I'm really mad at the casino, and for what happened was when you lose a lot of money, they feel bad, so they give people like comps for certain shitty.
Oh no!
So these are all people that lost their shit all day, and because I go up there and this guy's like, I'd rather be fishing, and I was like, okay, I remember that.
What the fuck?
I was like, yeah, I walk into that shit. So, yeah, there's times that are rough. I mean, like even doing the bachelor party, Tony was great and his friends, but you're going after girls that are dancing, and drunk guys. Before I went up, I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I went up right after the girls.
Oh my god! Before we go too far, someone in the Sirloin in the in the comments said he went to a strip club in Prague called Hot Peppers. He was offered crack cocaine at the door and was whipped by a stripper to do host. I was like, that sounds about right.
That sounds like Prague.
The two songs they play is "Do Host Me" and the one by Buck Cherry that's like, "You're a crazy bitch, but it's so good." They have to be played at every strip club.
That's amazing.
God.
So while we're on the topic, you've had some rough gigs. Like, what are some of the worst heckles you've gotten, and like, what have you done? What if you had any like awesome responses? Like, did you have some venom you got to spew at people when they were being shitty?
Usually when the people that are heckling me really bad, they scare me. So now I'm like, I just don't die. So I don't really get mad. I get more like I'm just like get through this. But I'm a little Jewish guy, and I don't really care about like racism or whatever. But some of the I guess they're like silly funny, or at the time I don't know. It's weird. It's just like this crowd after every joke they would say something like a Jewish word,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I do my punchline, they'd be like, hot dog, kosher beef, and then they go bar mitzvah. They would just say random words like Hanukkah, Passover. So after every joke, that was weird.
Good Lord.
Like sometimes people like make fun of the way I look, and I'll just be like, well, I'll do it better because I make fun of myself. And I'm trying to think something really that stands out. I think my mouth was really dry, and I had like little spittle on my sides, and people were like, "You're rabid," and this guy just kept doing it like, "You're rabid, close your mouth, get some water, you're rabid," and he just wouldn't shut. What I was like, he would just ruin my set,
Yeah.
So that I remember, that kind of hurt my feelings because you are like working hard up there, and you're dealing with like some guy that won't shut up, and he doesn't, he just wants to, like, if he's on a date, he's probably trying to impress his, his girlfriend or whatever. Yeah. So it is,
Well, it's tough. As I hear that too, because I'm not a comedian. I mean, I tried doing improv comedy for a while, but I'm not a comedian. But I would like to think that if I'm going to yell something, it'd be a little more clever. It'd be a little bit better as opposed to Hanukkah, dreidel. Like,
well, that was the whole crowd. The whole crowd was doing it.
At the same time, it's just like, congrats. You guessed it. I'm Jewish. Way to go.
The thing is, like, like, just get, like, it never really bothers me. It's more like get through the time.
Yeah.
Like, just make the money and get through the time. Because at the time, like, a $200, $100 gig is, like, a lot to me. So
right.
I never cared. I was like, I used to perform anywhere. So it didn't really matter, It was like, just get through the time.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Sirloin 84 says, nothing turns on girls I've dated like ruining the evening we paid for.
Yeah, but to a guy, though, like, they feel like a little, what's the word? Kind of like they're bringing this girl. I've had all guys say different stuff. Like, one guy was like, I have the best sex with my girlfriend after a comedy show because, like, girls like to laugh. She has a great time. And then some guys feel a little threatened that, like, this little dude is my girlfriend's laughing at this guy, and, like, what the fuck? And,
and then the more booze you get in, I mean, that only exacerbates the situation. These guys just get no inhibitions.
Yeah. But heckling was never, like, I never really had much problem with heckling for the most part. I had more problems with the business. Yeah. And just, like, the bullshit and stuff like that.
Like, what part you talking about? Like, are you like just like the negotiations, or having to like shake hands and do the political thing?
Yeah, that's it. Networking. Like you have,
The dirty
you
word,
guys-
networking. Ugh.
yeah, like improv. I'm sure it's networking, and I know a few guys that made it from Chicago. It was probably around your time that you started with, and they knew how to work the system. I'll tell you a name that's a mega star who I've ran into a few times that I was like, this guy's full of shit, and you probably know what I'm talking about, but well, it's not Will Ferrell. But we'll talk about it after.
Sure, we talking off mic.
But like I can never do that. Like part of it is actually like befriending people bigger than you, befriending the right people. And I can only be friends or only be real to people I really like, and a lot of these people I don't like.
Yeah.
So I was never able to really work the system. And you have to be resilient. You really do, and you have to just push your way in sometimes. And I was not really me. I was more passive.
Yeah,
So.
I think I was watching. I can't remember what it was. There was some interview show, and Matt Damon was talking about how he's like, you have to be a little off in the head to really make it in this business, because he goes, it's the only business that wants you to fail. He's like, everyone is rooting against you. Everyone wants to tell you no. And he goes, to keep coming back to the table and getting that again and getting fed that again and again. He's like, you really have to have a different kind of resolve and basically be like a masochist to want to have to keep doing that.
I agree. I mean, also like these movies, like when you're not talking about the man, like, Matt Damon now, like they give him movies, but back then when he started, it's like he's up with 60 other guys.
Right. That look just like him.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he's got to stand out just a little. And whoever, if he doesn't get it, he's going to root against that guy who got it. And he's going to think if that movie bombs, he could have done a better job.
Right.
All right, relax.
Does she want to be on the podcast?
That was awesome.
My sister yelled at me. She lives upstairs. I live downstairs.
It's all good.
So we ordered sneaker. I ordered sneakers. I'm curious to see if they fit.
You a sneaker
What kind
guy?
of sneakers did you get?
No, I'm not. I just needed them because I have holes in mine. Just Nike. I keep it simple. I get the same pair every time, just like black with the white swoosh.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. No Jordans for you?
Yeah. Too fancy.
Got a question from someone on Twitch. They said, do you develop material to take down hecklers, or is that even a thing?
Well, the funny thing is you whatever you say in the moment, and if it works, you keep it in the back of your head, and so you're always riffing. So I've never like thought of something beforehand, but there's times that things work, and if they work, you always have it for that situation. So like now in your catalog, in the back of your mind, if somebody hits you with that, you're gonna nail them with what worked before. So that's kind of how I have it. So I have like a few lines for certain heckles that I know will probably happen.
That makes
the
sense.
hard part about that is you actually have to go through the heckle then to get the response.
Yeah, like I have this really great bomb line. Okay, but I can only use it if I'm bombing. You can't use it if you're doing good. But I had this one where I'm like, I want to build a time machine. I'm like, not anywhere special, just 10 minutes in the future when this is over. It usually works. It works when I'm bombing, and then sometimes it gets the crowd back.
Yeah,
that's all you need sometimes, right? Is that one little just like turn to spark the audience.
And I said it one time on stage, just out of like, sporadic whatever in my head, and now it's now there whenever I need it, like a weird Rolodex in my head that like in this situation, hit that button.
I love that so much because I find it hilarious, but also it makes sense because in improv, in the brief amount of time they did it, one of the things you do is you ask for suggestions, and one of the first things you learn is like, hey. Well, I mean, I didn't listen when they taught it because the first improv show I did, someone made a suggestion. I thought you had to take it. And that day, Nelson Mandela had died. And so in our student improv show, I'm like, can I have a suggestion? Someone goes, Nelson Mandela. And I'm like, okay, we're doing Nelson Mandela. Because I didn't know how to say no. But one of the common things you get from the people who go on the cruise ships, which are obviously never going to happen ever again. But, is people would be like, can I get a suggestion? Dildo. Whore, whatever, and people would just have those lines backed up all ready to go of what to say when someone suggests something stupid, and they would just be like locked and loaded, bam, because someone's definitely going to say dildo because they're not original, No. I think that's the thing that gets me the most is when you're on social media or wherever and you see people just like post the really bland, easy, hacky, dare I say, stuff, and you're like, come on, we can all do better than that. It's like, it's like, come on.
Like the stuff with the bleach, like bleach, and it's like, okay, like 5 seconds after that happened, there was a good joke about it, and then it's got to move on,
Yeah.
When you develop, I've been trying to, not in any sort of serious capacity, we'll say lightly, trying to develop a tight five for like the last 15 plus years, and it's impossible. I don't think. I seriously don't think it's possible. I've seen stand-up comedians. I still don't believe they've written it. I don't think you can write 5 minutes. It's so hard. How do you develop material? I find this process fascinating because it eludes me.
Yeah, I've had a really crazy past. So when I was 20, I had a brain tumor. So I had to go through a couple brain surgeries, and then I got out of that, and it was a very long recovery. And then I got a job at an animal hospital, and I was cleaning dog shit and cat shit and just sweeping the floors and stuff like that. And I was very depressed. And then I kind of stumbled on stand-up, and it gave me a purpose, and it gave me like a survival thing where this is what I have nothing to fall back on. So I better learn how to write 5 minutes. So by going to a comedy club every night, and I got a job at one, like as an usher, and I'd answer phones, and I would just watch all the pros, and I would watch their mannerisms, how they wrote, the brevity of jokes, and I just kind of like took my life and kind of like, tried to not kind of model what they were doing with my life, and then just through like trial and error, I was catching little things, I was starting to kind of develop like a little persona, and through that, you could write jokes in that little box of what you want to represent,
Interesting.
So I felt like if I just kept doing that, I could I don't know, I could just keep, and writing a 5 minutes is really hard. One of the things about comics that they make this rookie mistake where they're like, I gotta write jokes. So then they have like 40 minutes of really bad jokes.
Ugh.
But they're better off having 5 really amazing tight minutes than 40 just throwaway shit. Mm-hmm. Like that's more impressive for sure. Yeah. It's because you're like condensing, you're like building, you're starting a story, and you're having a middle and an end. And when it works, it's like amazing. When you see some of the greats do like 5 minutes on TV, which they don't do as much, it's like holy shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to being a masochist, I mean, if you want to get into it, to any sort of comedy, you have to eat shit for like a minimum of like, what, 5 years? Minimum?
Yeah, I bombed maybe the first 2 years. So I had like decent jokes, but I was like dirty, and I would make fun of myself, and I was coming off creepy. So the hardest part for me was making myself, those same jokes, making them creepy to likable. And I pulled it off.
So that's where the craft was for you.
Yeah, I swear to God, it's so weird because if you do them with no confidence, you come off creepy. But if you do confidence, you're like, oh, he's so adorable and cute, whatever. Like, oh, he means no well, like he means no harm. He's just being silly. Like, what a silly guy this guy is. But when you don't have the confidence, you just come off as a big creepo.
I can totally see that. I mean, just imagine someone at a mic just going like, so, I'm not very fast, sweat a lot. People are like, Jesus, this guy is just like listing his flaws. Like, this isn't funny at all. This is sad. This isn't therapy,
what a very skilled comic can do that same jokes and make them like people just like the like likability. There's little things like little psychology. Like I used to see young comics make really like weird mistakes of that. They're like the crowd and then say weird shit. That makes sense, as opposed to a comic that's gonna say weird shit and he's gonna be like, I'm not like you guys, you know?
Yeah.
And just those little things of psychology goes a long way.
Oh, that's interesting. They kind of almost make themselves an antagonist or something for them to kind of, not necessarily an antagonist, but if he's like, I'm like you, I'm weird, people are like, hey, I'm not weird. I'm not like you.
Like this one guy did this terrible joke, and I remember this, and he was like, there was always these dumb jokes of like Spider-Man in Times Square was actually like a little Hispanic guy that was like 5'1", and that was like the joke, you know? And it was not a good joke. He was like, hey, aren't you guys tired of like little Puerto Rican Spider-Man, you know, in Times Square? And like people were like, no, like that's kind of racist. But if he did a joke of like, you know, I was a comic book character, or I'm a comic book fan, and the first day I got to New York City, I saw Spider-Man. I'm like, you know, like, isn't he supposed to be bigger? Like, what the hell? Like just I'm bombing on this, but you know,
no, dude, you instantly
turned
turned that around to such a positive and more funny way just by instead of coming at it in that harsh way. It was
exactly.
like I believe, like, yeah, you take the comic book approach. You're like, I thought he was supposed to be bigger. You're making fun of yourself, make it seem like you have no clue. Like everything about that, like it resonates with me.
You take like an expectation and you flip it on its head. I expected, and then what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too with comics that drive me nuts is when they're bombing. They're like, "Fuck you, that's funny." You know what? You know how many shows I've been on? I did that joke on television and it crushed. Like nobody needs to hear it. Like sometimes
do they start laughing after they say that? Like, oh, it was on TV. You know.
Well, you know, it's hard. There was a guy who became very big who he used to open up for me, and I used to take him around, and he's like he's not a household name. He's right beneath it, but he passed me big time. A lot of guys have passed me. It's really sad. So, but one time we were doing a show at a VFW hall in Connecticut, and it was like a pretty harsh crowd. And he's bombing, and the people aren't there. The people there are probably the people that would exercise on town hall, you know, or those type. And he says to them, he's done about 3 jokes. They've all bombed, and he goes, "All right, I got an easy one for you." And then he does the joke and nothing. He goes, "Come on, guys, that was an easy one." So we get in the car. He's like, "What did I do wrong?" I'm like, "Well, you know, it was a shitty crowd, but." You know, once you say you got an easy one for you, you're telling them they're really stupid, you know?
Yeah.
Think about it. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. So there's like little words comics can like alienate their audience. But
That's such a fine line to walk when you're up there too, and making sure you're not saying the wrong thing in the moment.
And you can lose them so fast. You can do 10 great minutes, and you say one thing that you make one comment and it throws them off, and you might lose them for the rest of the night, you know?
I've heard countless stories of that.
How specific are you with sticking to, because I know like the 2 schools of comedy or 2 schools of thought when it comes to stand-up are the ones who kind of like George Carlin used to do, like write out every single word and stick to it. Like, no, and then there's those that come up and like, I've got beats and I'll kind of,
I don't necessarily write everything out, but I'm a firm believer in like verbatim, and I'm a firm believer in as very few words as possible. So I kind of like live, and I never write. I think I retired, just what I want you to know.
Is that what we've decided tonight?
Yeah. So when I did do comedy, I write out it's like a set list. So every joke has a word as like a keyword to kind of follow the set list, and I want it to flow a certain way. And then I just try to keep the jokes as brief as possible. Somebody when I first started, kind of like, you're using too many words, and they said a good joke is like a steak where you want to cut the fat out. So like the fat are the excess words. And that helped me a lot. I was like, yeah. And I realized that, like, one of my favorite comics is Dave Attell, and I would listen to him, and he uses so few words to get to the point. It's just like bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
And it's pretty impressive. And
I've been trying to look at the same thing in when I'm doing writing now, like screenwriting or something like that. I'm like, all right, this is a lot of dialogue for some person to be saying. Is there a way for them to say all this in one sentence, and you just start turning it, and it tightens everything up so well.
Are you an aspiring screenwriter?
We have a production company, so we do some short films, and as soon as this whole thing lifts, hopefully our first feature, we'll see.
Well, congratulations. My sister's very big in the business.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, her name is Jessica Goldberg. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but
I have not, but I will be looking up Jessica Goldberg now.
Yeah, she created a show called The Path.
Okay.
It was on Hulu.
Okay.
Oh, awesome.
With Aaron Paul and a couple other people. So.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's a real deal. She makes
freaking awesome.
She makes fuck you money. Like I'm
Oh God, I love that phrase. It never gets old.
So yeah, she makes big. She's the way I joke about it is because she moved all of us out to LA, and she makes the same amount of money as like the worst pitcher on a baseball team, but that's still a shitload of money.
Isn't like the best thing? They'll be like, I'm a third string quarterback. It's like, okay, that's cool. Yeah. You don't have to worry about, brain hemorrhaging, and you stay healthy and you get paid,
Yeah, it's great. Hold that clipboard and yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. No, it's interesting because especially when you're talking about, learning the rules, it's of comedies, because the rules are there for a reason, so you can not be an idiot. But also, if you get good enough, you can break those rules, right? There's plenty of comics that are so good that they can take that sort of almost antagonistic approach.
I mean, a guy that got kind of, I will say he's kind of like to me, he's the James Woods of stand-up comedy, because he's really good at what he does, but like he's done. Like he's named Nick DiPaolo, and
Nick DiPaolo, yeah.
He's coming up, like, I mean, you watch him. I'm not gonna say he crushes. If he goes on stage, he crushes, and he always played the asshole, like the Republican kind of grouchy asshole. But what he did to survive in New York City it was never the crowd, it was him. So he's like that. He's like the grouchy guy. And at the time it wasn't like heated politically. So you're like, oh, he's my funny neighbor that's Republican that we talk about politics for 5 minutes. He says something crazy and he makes me laugh, but he's harmless,
Yeah.
Nick was able to be that character but if he was like, fuck you guys, or like, don't you guys agree with me? Like he couldn't get, there's no way he could pull off those jokes,
Yeah.
So it's that little fine line of being able to do that.
Yeah, I think another one I think of is Anthony Jeselnik, because his jokes are so like, brutal, and how he delivers. A lot of time people will be like, oh, and he's like, what do you want from me?
Anthony's interesting because if I did his jokes, I could probably get away with him more, because he's a very handsome guy. He's held to like this, like, well, why would this fucking handsome white guy keep saying this shit?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a story I've told before on here where that's who delivers the line is really important. I was in an improv scene at school, and it was just a terrible school improv, class, and people kept, I can't remember the exact premise, but they kept calling someone a sea monster. And basically, they were referring to calling someone a cunt, But they kept joking around. And one of the rules I learned was like, don't beat around the bush, get to it, because by the time you beat around the bush and get to it, it's old. Everyone already knows. So people just kept calling each other sea monsters. So then I hopped into a scene, and there's this like 5'2" girl in front of me, and I just go, "You're a cunt!" And I just scream it at her, expecting
and Doug is
murderous
like
applause. I'm 6'3", and I'm like, huh, that's weird. And our teacher's like, time out, real quick. So Doug, why'd you say that? And I went through the whole thing. He's like, yeah, here's the thing. You can't say that because you're 6'3". He's like, you're gonna scare people. The 5'2" girl, she can say it and it'll be hilarious. And that was a tough lesson for me to learn. But I was
Because
like, you're
by
right.
existing, Doug, you're aggressive.
Exactly. I'm large.
It is a weird thing that like the psychology is so. It goes just about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bump sometimes.
And Jervis, our Australian friend, says the Australian came out of Doug. It sure did, Jared. It sure did.
A back to fronter.
So, like I fell in love with poker, so I'm kind of like a gamer like you guys. Like I don't play video games, but I love poker, and I've been killing it in quarantine because there's so many Zoom tournaments. There's like a whole network of tournaments going on, and the players. I hope nobody's listening that I play with, but they suck.
We got a big poker audience. So.
well, it's like I'm curious to see how good I'm gonna do when the quarantine ends because a lot of these people, they don't have much to do every night, so they started playing poker, and they have money, so we're playing for decent money, and they just like they don't have the skills, and once life comes back, they're not gonna play anymore. So I'm not sure if I'm doing really good because it's quarantine or because I've worked like 2 years playing poker every day to get good, but I think it's a combination of both.
That's so awesome. I went through a hot streak where I was like, I liked poker, but I don't like gambling because I don't like losing money, so that makes me really bad. And
you gotta have gambling. You gotta have a little gamble.
But
you gotta have a little gamble in you in order to be a stand-up comedian too.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, absolutely.
So you good at reading people, or do you read the cards?
No, I think I have a combination. I'm not big into the math side of it. Like some people they're like, why did you do that? Like, do you know that 62% if you do that? And I'm like, yeah, but there's like intuition and this and that. Sometimes you just feel like I can stay out of this pot and I'll be okay or something. It's like, yeah but like the positioning of this and that, and I'm not really into that. I went through this bad breakup like a year and a half ago by a girl I felt like really deceived me and like wasn't who she was, and I like told me a lot of lies, and now I'm like, yeah, like never happen again,
Yeah.
In poker, I channel her, and then I'm like, like just like little lies that she told me, like I can see it in the people's eyes, and that's like.
What are some of the common things you see in people, like when you're playing, where you're like, he's full of shit? Like, what do you see?
I'll tell you the biggest thing these fucking people are doing during quarantine that you never see at a casino. But when you make a bet and they got the goods, and when they got the goods, they go, what do you got there? You holding an ace king there? What do you got there? So they're pretending like they're a little weak and they're sizing me up, but every fucking time they're beyond, like they have the nuts right there when they do that. And that's the biggest tell I've noticed.
That's hilarious.
Fascinating.
Yeah, but it's always the same speech.
What do you got there?
What do you got? Ace king? What do you got?
Like let's say the flop is like queen 10-10, okay? And they have like pocket queens or something, or aces, and you make a bet. And let's say they have a queen, so they have pocket queens, so they have a full house with the tens. So like you make a bet, you have ace 10 or something, or you don't even have that, you have jacks or something. So you make a bet to see what's gonna happen, and they go, "Oh, what do you got there, Matty? You must have a really strong hand, huh? You must have, you got quad tens there. What do you hold?" And they give you that speech, and every time they do that. And it's not just to me. I see him do it to other people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that. That speech is like, that is a tell for super strength.
So at that point, you just
won't
fold.
hear that. Well, sorry, my bad.
At that point, you just turn your cards and you fold.
Yeah. And I know like when the two other people are playing, who's gonna win that hand.
Yeah.
Like, no, that guy's just like got like a monster hand, and. I won't hear that like when they play in real tournaments and casinos and stuff are like real like poker lifers. They don't do any of that bullshit.
Those guys that have the shades on, they pull their hoods up over and they play their cards and they just sit there. They're just like, they don't want to give anything away.
Are they intimidate you? Or they just like, take a lot of time, they don't speak, or are they just like kind of like size you up, or like, but there's no bullshit of like, sometimes what they'll do is they'll splash the pot towards near you, and it's kind of like it's an intimidating feeling, because they're like, don't, like, this is my pot, don't fuck with me.
Right.
Mhm.
It's
But
almost like
they
they're
don't-
pushing you.
Yeah, they don't give any funny speeches, like, or like, what do you got there? Huh? You must have quads there, huh?
Because they've learned that. They're like, yeah, don't you shut the fuck up and play your cards, because someone's gonna figure that out really fast.
Yeah, but that's what I've noticed.
One of the guys from Australia, he used to actually work in a casino, and he said poker players hate when you win off luck rather than playing to the outrageous math. He said he hated dealing poker back in his croupier days. I can only imagine what that would be like.
Yeah, because poker, there is a lot of luck. I mean, I've seen just people get sucked out, is the word. And, I'm the first, what happened with me, and this is how crazy I am, is it's like comedy where you're doing good, and then our baseball is another analogy, is a guy will come up from the minors and he'll hit like 350.
Mhm.
And then they like, okay, throw him breaking balls. He can't hit a breaking ball. And then he has to adjust. So when I started really getting into online poker about a year or two ago, I was kicking ass for like 2 months. And then I got in a major slump. And a lot of it was I was just playing really big hands like aces, kings, queens, and hoping to win there. And then all of a sudden those hands started getting like crushed. And I started like going in with aces, and then somebody would have jacks, and then I'd get a jack. And I got so mad, I called the company up, or the betting site. I'm like, this is fucking rigged. This is fucking bullshit. The fuck is, I didn't really understand the game. And one of the guys talked to me, and he was like, listen, why don't you try to trap people more? Like, you should play a different way. Like, you're playing too obvious. And that was one of like the biggest lessons I got. But there are people that they always assume like, because I had the best hand starting out, I should have won. And I have a friend who just bitches all the time. And I'm like, this is the game you signed up for, Like,
well, I think it's funny because like someone recently told me, in a situation like this person had an 80% chance to win, and we thought it was 100. It's like, no,
there's 80.
It's 80% chance. That means there's a 20% chance they're not going to win. And
right, absolutely.
That's what happened, and I think people kind of look at that, and I'm very much susceptible to that. I played games where it's like, you have an 87% chance of hitting this person. I'm like, cool, I'm going to hit him, and I don't. I'm like, that's bullshit. I'm like, fell in the 13%. It sucks when you have the 97%, right, and you hit that 3%. That's the one that stings a lot, but, again, it does. It absolutely does happen, and it's one of those things where, again, at the end of the day, you are rolling the dice, you're playing the odds, you're hoping that the math is in your favor, but to be like, well, you had a 67% chance, you're like, yeah, I mean, that's a D plus, man.
Well, the other thing about poker too. Oh, you want to see?
No, please go ahead.
Oh, is like, if you lose like unluckily at a casino playing blackjack, well, not blackjack because you kind of depend on other people, but roulette or something like that, or craps, it's like you in the house.
Mm-hmm.
But poker, you're gonna, like, sometimes somebody gets mad at somebody else at the table, and then it gets really uncomfortable, and then it gets awkward because there's like two patrons are fighting. Like, if you start yelling at the dealers of another game, you're out of there. But now it's like, it just gets really dicey. But I will say, and this is why one of the reasons I hate stand-up comedy is like, now that I've immersed myself more in the poker world, there's more money in poker, and yet people are a lot nicer.
Oh, that broke my heart to hear that, man. Like,
it's just the truth, man. It is the truth.
Oh, why do you think that is? I mean, obviously, probably with comedy comes the fame, right? The chasing the dragon of making people laugh, right? That's always kind of what it is, to a certain degree.
And a lot of stand-up, there's not a lot of money in it up front, and people are still like just cutting each other's throats to move on, to move up. And I think poker is just like, like, just play, and the best person wins that day, and it is what it is. But stand-up, there's so much politics, and people kind of like cutting each other's throats basically for a 5-minute free set. They're going to do it some bar somewhere.
Yeah. I think there's only one other thing outside of stand-up comedy that's as cutthroat and lethal in this world, and it's called the Throwdown.
Welcome to the Throwdown, Matty. I hope you're ready.
Right.
You're welcome.
Because again, the rules of this is 2 things enter, only 1 thing leaves. So I hope you're able to help us determine what's going to make it out of this one alive.
Poker or stand-up comedy?
That would be a great.
That would be a great one. That would be a great one.
But based off of something that you said during the episode, I think you really are going to like this Throwdown tonight. So today's Throwdown, the 2 people going into the ring of death are going to be Dave Attell versus Doug Stanhope.
Wow.
So let's set the stage, all right?
Well, real quick, before I do this, like I told Doug off air, I feel like this is kind of a Freudian thing because his brother's name is Dave, so I feel like this is him trying to work out some Dave versus Doug shit. So we're gonna see if he breaks down by the end of this. But go ahead.
No,
Set the
I'm
stage,
fine.
Douglas.
So I mean, these are 2, legendary comedians, right? Both well-worn road warriors and have seen it all. And it's for some reason it seems like it'd be hard for guys of this stature to really get a beef. But then again, it's comedy, right? Anything could happen. It could set someone off, to dislike each other. But essentially, we'll just say it's something as simple as they're competing for a venue, right? It's a venue that they're going to be opening up. It's right after Corona's ending, and they're desperate to get out there. They want this venue. They want this hot venue, and Dave says it's his, Doug says it's his, and they start a feud, and then before you know it, they're in the streets outside the venue, and they're like, "This is it," because this is exactly how it would go. It's like, "You piece of shit, Doug, I'm taking you out." And Doug Stanhope's like, "Fuck you, Attell, and your amazing delivery on things and the way you approach life. I hate you too." And they put up their dukes. Who do you think would win in a fight to the death?
First off, your impressions have gotten so much better.
I'm telling you, man, I'm working on it. I'm working on accents and impressions.
Well done.
Pretty good. What do you think, Matty?
Oh, I thought you were gonna do.
Do you want the song again? I can play the song.
I was thinking. I was like, the other guy's gonna go, so now I'm thinking. But I guess.
If you want, I can jump in.
No,
if you need
no,
time to think.
I'll
right.
go. I mean, I love both of them. I have a quick Doug stand-up story.
Woo!
One year on Facebook, he posted. He goes, "I'm really drunk. It was Christmas." He goes, "Give me your number and I'll call you. I'm just gonna call like 100 people."
Oh my
So
God.
I'm like, I was going through a tough time because my dad was really sick and dying. So I gave him my number and he called me and we started talking just about shit, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Really awesome.
Yeah, and then he was like, "Well, I got 40 more people to call." So,
That's like an amazing Doug Stanhope story.
yeah, it's pretty wild. I just remember I was like, "Dude, life sucks. My dad's gonna die," and then he was like, "Well, my mother's got pins and this and that, and she's shitting in a colostomy bag," and he's like, "Suck it up, kid." But I'm gonna be honest. I owe so much to Dave Attell because he was like the god of gods that I looked up to, and the god of gods that I like listened to the CD Skanks for the Memories like 3 million times, and was like, that's what I aspire to be. I think they're such nice guys that like they wouldn't want to beat each other up, so they would almost be like, I've lived enough.
So they'll make the sacrifice.
Yeah, I think one of them would make a sacrifice, but they're not that alpha dude that's like, fuck you,
Right.
So if I had the big one, Attell lives, but Stanhope like will be like revered like Bill Hicks was like 10 years late. So he dies, but he dies like Jesus.
What, on crucified?
Yeah, crucified, and like 10 years later, it's like, wow, Doug Stanhope was a genius. And like, he moved to Arizona and just like did his weird thing and dated really weird girls and went to little bars instead of comedy clubs when he could sell them out.
He ran for president at one point and then decided it was too weird, so he stopped doing it.
I have a buddy named Henry Phillips, who's a really funny comedian. I don't know if you guys know, but he used to open up for Stanhope, and he would tell he told me this great story. It's like we would be in like Nashville, and like the first show, he'd just be like, Jesus does not exist. There is no God. And the whole crowd would walk out. And then like in between, you'd be like, God, I got to sell some CDs. And then the next set was just like the typical like stand-up, set-up, punchline, typical, sex jokes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty amazing. Like hearing stories like that is always like beautiful.
I love that sense of people who are just going to be like, you know what, I want to say what I want. I think that's probably the romanticized part of it, right? The
Sure.
comedians who can take like the Bill Burr moment in Philadelphia, right, where he takes a raging, horrible crowd for 10 minutes. He's just like, fuck you. I'm going to tell you jokes. I'm going to get you on my side. Then I'm going to insult your sports. I'm going to have you hate me again because that's what everyone wants, right?
That's one of the best videos ever. Yeah,
it was amazing. That's why actually I think how I found out about Bill Burr was because Justin showed me that video or whatever, and I was like, holy shit, this guy did that? He's like, yeah, like to a raging arena.
It was for like an opening ante show, and those are the worst people. So I'm not surprised that happened. Yeah, but it is like I love when comics can go outside the box. Like one quick story.
Yeah.
Patrice O'Neill, who died, was like a total crazy genius like that.
Yeah.
And my friend was telling me one time Chappelle showed up to a show, and it's like Chappelle, huge Dave Chappelle show, and he's just making everybody happy and laugh and having a great time. And it's like, holy shit, we saw Dave Chappelle in front of like 200 people, and Patrice went after him, and he just did shitty on purpose, like insulted everybody, and he walked 200 people. And as they're walking out, he's like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. And he was like kind of ripping on everybody being happy and what bullshit happiness is. And he knew what he was doing, He could easily, they would have loved him because he was a pretty big name himself, but he decided like, nah, I'm going to piss all these people off.
Tonight, this is more fun for me.
Yeah.
He had a way with that too. I've heard countless stories how he would just, people would be telling a story about like, I don't know, something that would happen, or I read this thing where this thing happened. He'd be like, hey, whoa, hey guys, guess what? Doug believes in magic. Did you hear that? Yeah. He believes in magic. And I was like, that's not why he said. He goes, oh no, you're saying this thing happened? You believe in magic. And he would just tear people down, but it was out of love, but people would be like, fuck, Patrice has got me.
Yeah, he was a genius. He really was.
Well, I appreciate your reverence for both of these guys, but I don't know them. I only know them from some of their comedy, but Doug Stanhope seems like the kind of guy that has a knife in his boot, or would know where to procure a weapon of such. Whereas Dave Attell seems kind of like a little more happy-go-lucky. So it seems like Doug Stanhope to me would be kind of the guy that's like, I know where all the sharp objects are hidden. I'm going to use it to my advantage. So I give advantage to Doug Stanhope. I have nothing to back that up. It's just a feeling.
Does Doug Stanhope smoke cigarettes?
He does.
I don't know. I know Dave Attell does.
Dave Attell does,
right.
Yeah.
So that's why I would give Dave Attell the advantage, because if you've ever been in a fight with a cigarette smoker, the first thing that comes is that right at your face, and you don't see the rest coming. So he's got the cigarette right in your eye, breaks the beer bottle in the neck, and then he goes up and does a set. Done.
It's hard to say because they've both seen so many things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've both seen so many things, but it sounds like the tiebreaker here is Matty, who says that Doug sacrifices himself in a Jesus-like state.
I don't want that pressure.
We got to have a deciding factor, so it sounds like it's Dave Attell for the win.
Dave Attell for the win?
Dave Attell for the win.
I feel bad.
That's the wrong one.
Funny, but
Dave Attell for the win! There it is. I put the sexy music on accidentally. I was like, ooh, Dave Attell for the win. All right.
That's what I'm talking about. Matty, that was so much fun, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to shoot the shit with us.
Dude, it was so much fun. Anytime you need me to come back on, I probably better on Tuesdays because I don't know shit about video games. No.
You're always welcome back here, man. This is...
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You guys are hysterical, and I had a great time just shooting the shit with you. I was going to, reveal that I don't know anything about comic books or superhero movies, but I guess maybe the next time I'm on, I don't think I've seen one movie that's like a superhero movie in the last 20 years. So
Nothing wrong with that. We can still find obviously cool stuff to talk about, so it's all
are
good.
you guys into that shit or not?
Yeah. You can't see it right now, but on Twitch I have an Avengers logo behind me. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm
No,
a
that's
different type of nerd, you know.
no. Hey, it's totally cool, and I don't judge people who don't like it because I had a realization because a lot of people that I work with don't know anything about it, and so as I'm like sharing this stuff, I realize how much of a child I must seem like to them. They're like, this
No, you're not.
37-year-old guy likes these superheroes. I'm like, hey man, that's what I like. Sorry.
Maddie, I will say that on the chat right now, we've got a couple people who are championing for you to come on Saturday and join us for games because the game we're playing is Joke Boat, and essentially you have to write bad jokes, and the person who writes. So if you want to join us, you have a 8 o'clock Central.
So 6 o'clock Saturday night.
I'll stop by for a few because
I mean, that would be hilarious.
I'll fly over.
You've got an audience now, yeah.
Well, that means a lot because your audience could be like, this guy sucks. Why'd you have him on? So I'm flattered.
No, I don't think any of us are really going to be able to. I mean, first of all, I'm terrible at the game, but the whole point is it's writing, premises and just punching up other people's jokes. It's a real fun. We just shit on each other the whole time, so it's a real blast.
That's fun.
Yeah.
What I figured you do more games like the games everybody plays with the gun, Fortnite and shit like that.
Yeah, I'm not so much into first-person shooters, so I'm kind of into some other stuff. And we try to play games where the audience can engage with us, so it makes it more fun for them and for us.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm thinking all different other things.
no, that's cool. I mean, a lot of people play that on Twitch, so I mean, you could just hop on Twitch right now and anyone's playing Call of Duty or something. So there you go.
Why does it seem like this is an obvious question, but these beautiful women playing video games are getting like 3 billion fucking views? It's amazing. It's the wildest thing ever. Like, who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Right.
You could just play in a nice sports bra and short pants and.
Exactly.
Weird thing is, when Doug did that, we had our lowest viewership ever. So I don't know.
No one showed up for it,
Yeah.
Double standards.
Burlesque 101, but no one believed me. So whatever. But
But that's the beauty, because like I'm here because of Tony, and like if I was a burlesque dancer, he doesn't know the girls' names. He knows.
That's amazing.
He's very happily married. His buddies, a lot of them were single that night, from what I remember.
Well,
We
Matty,
were single that night for sure.
Yeah.
I want to take this time to roll out the carpet for you, my friend. Promote whatever you want. Promote your podcast, social medias, whatever you want, man. The floor is yours.
Okay, so the last words is on iTunes with Matty Goldberg, MattyGoldberg, Instagram, Matty Goldberg. That's where I kind of like do the most stuff. Twitter, I guess, at Matty Goldberg 1. And yeah, just be safe, everybody. And I'm thinking of getting into the Twitch poker game, but I don't know if I'm that like insane to do that. But I think to get numbers, I got to be a very beautiful woman. I don't think it's like worth I don't know. I don't know if it's worth the time if I'm not
Well, take it from two guys who are just grinding their way up there. We'll follow you, man. You put it on there. We'll follow you. I'll watch. I love watching poker. I'd watch you. Hell yeah.
It's fun. I like watching the Twitches sometimes. So
yeah.
And that's why I make it I was like, how do I make it entertaining?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's the hard part. Is like, how do you put a little spin to it?
Yeah, you just gotta start somewhere. I mean, we started pretty small, and we're still figuring it out. So.
Well, you guys are really great. Great show.
Awesome, man.
Thank you, pal.
Thank you so much. Justin, what do you have to recommend this week, my friend?
Oh shit! What have I been watching? Ron Howard's a cool guy. Check his workout.
Just his list of movies that he's done.
Just his body of work. Go check him out.
Fair enough.
And Schitt's Creek. Doug, what do you got?
I'd recommend another Twitch channel. It goes by the name of For Sale 18. That's FORSALE, the number 1, the number 8. It's a really cool channel. This guy streams Wednesday through Saturday. He does really cool stuff. I've hung out on his channel a couple of times. Super awesome community. They're very fun. They play a lot of engaging stuff. Go check him out. It's fun. It's really, really cool. It's For Sale 18 on Twitch. And before we go, also just remember, guys, we've got merch. You can head straight down on Twitch right now if you're watching on Twitch. Head on down, click on the link. You can check out some of the shirts and stuff that we have going on. If you're listening to the podcast, head over to teespring.com/stores/2, 8, and you can pick up our merch there. You can also follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/MindGapPodcast. All of our social medias at MindGapPodcast, and we are doing a video game stream this Saturday at 8 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be playing Jackbox Party Pack, and Joke Boat is on there. So last time, it was really fun and really nasty. And, if Matty's free to come on by and hang out with us. And you guys should come too. So come check that out Saturday, 8 p.m. Central Time. And Justin, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, check us out on Apple Podcast, on Stitcher, on
Spotify,
and on Google Podcast, wherever you can find and consume the old podcasts. And then while you're there, rate us, review us, share us around. The big one is sharing. If you like an episode, just copy the link, post it to your social media, send it to, your Aunt Patty. She loves us. And just get our name out there. The more that you promote us, the bigger we get and the more cool shit we can do. The more cool guests like Matty Goldberg we can have on.
Exactly.
And then
thanks, man.
Take a look at 2east8th.com/mindgap, and then 2east8th.com/short script contest. We're still running our short script contest through about mid-June. And you can submit, get some feedback on your script, and we'll pick up to the top 5 scripts and actually help get them produced. So there's that. And as Doug said, check our merch stuff out.
It's good stuff. Real big thanks to Twitch tonight. You guys are awesome. Thanks for asking questions to Matty and for hanging out as always. So, yeah. So, Justin, thank you.
Douglas, thank you.
Twitch, I said it. I'll say it again. Twitch, thank you.
Listeners, thank you. And a big thank you to Matty.
Yes, thanks again, Matty.
Thanks, had a great time.
Awesome.
Mind Gap Podcast.